back to Simple. I'm Courtney, and my husband Richard and I created Simple by Lacey in 2018. This is our second YouTube series on our home tours, so thank you so much for watching. This episode is extremely special because it is capturing the moment we went from just living on raw land to actually building into it. It showcases the first time we got to crack into the raw earth and start building the foundation that holds our entire home. When we first started cutting into our land, we were living in the container. Prior to that, we were in the uninsulated trailer, our closed-in trailer, for about a week. That's where we decided to sleep when we first moved onto this land. My mom had her tiny home bus, so she was all prepped and ready to go. She couldn't rough it like us due to her health conditions, and I just didn't want her to have to go through that. So we had previously made her tiny home bus when we were on Long Island, brought it here. We do have another YouTube video showcasing that trip down and the challenges that came with moving such a massive bus, trailing it with our pickup truck. So now we were here on our land. Our container had not come. It actually got delayed a couple days. So while waiting for it to come here, we stayed in the trailer. And then even after it got here, we had to prep it for us to be able to live inside of it. We had to paint the outside, paint the inside, and clean it, and then built a couple things. Like he built us a closet, a kitchenette, and a partition wall for our garage section to be separated. Plus he cut out a door because the regular shipping container doors was used for the garage part. So, and he cut out an extra window so that we had more wind and sunlight coming in than just the one little door that he had created us. So while we were waiting for that, we stayed in this uninsulated trailer for a week. We were sleeping on muddy pads. Our animals were in there with us, except for my mom's dog Bailey was with her. So we had 2 cats and our dog Abby with us. And it just wasn't ideal. Let's just say that. It wasn't ideal. Then upon moving into our container, everything was set, but we had not insulated it. It took us a couple weeks, and it was so frigid in there at nighttime. Before we put the insulation in, we just had our wood burning stove in there, which heated up beautifully, but that heat just ended up leaving as soon as the log burnt out because there was no insulation holding it in. It was just basically being in a refrigerator. It is such a bare metal container that when it's cold it's frigid. So we quickly realized we'd need insulation. So then we spent some time insulating it, which got a little tight in there because it's only 8 feet wide with nothing in it. And then we had our bed in there and stuff, and it was hard to take everything out because we had no dry space out on our field. It was just mud or grassed muddy fields. So things got a little complicated there. Once we were set up though, we were set up in the container. It was livable. Again, my mom was in her tiny home bus. Our dream was to be making this home, and then secondly, we were going to be making a cabin for my mom directly next to us. So our land is 2 hills, and we were on the first hill, and then my mom's cabin was going to go to her second hill. So this episode is really, really special because it is the beginning, right where we started cutting into this raw land and creating our dream, creating our home. This part of the build has many sections, from starting to break into that raw land with the augering machine to pouring the posts, leveling them, getting our 6x6 beams cut, putting them on, leveling those, and then doing our sister beams, our main foundation floor joists, and then the insulation, and finally our subfloor and our front deck boards. It's many stages, but we just felt it was a crucial video for you to see from breaking ground to finished foundation in one fluid motion, where you could really see like the whole beginning of our house is like what our home build sits on. So we felt it was important to show it in one fluid video where you get to see the whole walkthrough of it all, some behind the scenes, and I just thought it was really important to get it into one video and not break it up into little tiny bits. I wanted you to see the full foundation. So without further ado, here is our video of our foundation from the very first moments of breaking into the ground until we're putting the final deck boards of our front porch, where I'm standing on right now, for you to watch. Enjoy. We rented an augering machine to start the foundation of our home. Basically, it is a bobcat that has an auger attachment to the front. We trailered it back to our property, unchained it, and drove it up to the top of our hill. Then we laid out the full grid for the foundation. We measured and spray painted where every post would go, marking exact spots for each hole. Richard then used the augering machine to dig all the post holes. The ground is solid clay and rock, which makes it really tough to get straight holes, especially working on such an extreme slope. We had to work hard to keep everything as level and accurate as possible. Once the holes were dug, we added pea gravel to the bottom of each one to help with leveling and drainage. Then we used a board to tamp it into place. These next few steps were filmed during the actual build, and Richard himself is going to explain what he was doing in real time.
So I'm putting in these quick tubes. These are going to be my footings for the actual home. So I augered the hole, I put pea gravel in it, you put these down, you level that out, you put cement in here, and then I have a 6x6 post hole, like a bracket that you sink into the cement, and then you put your 6x6 post there. I decided to get this cement mixer to make the job a little bit easier and quicker. I did 9 of the post pilings by hand. And I quickly realized that the rest, I need one of these. Now I'm just going to add some more water. And we're going to turn the machine on. I'm adding a little bit more pea gravel to the hole. After this heavy rain that we had for the past couple of days, it wound up washing away some of it because some mud went on top of the other. I'm gonna have to patch up the majority of the holes, and right now the majority of the holes have water in them, so I'm only going to be able to do about 4 of these today. So now I'm going to tamp down the pea gravel, make sure it's nice and sturdy for the sonotube or quick tube. There is all the post pilings, my lumber getting soaked, and all of our land. Oh, and that's Dishy, that's the satellite. Now that all the concrete is cured and ready to have weight put on it, we ran string lines to make sure everything was level. I did that prior, but now that it's been about a week, we want to make sure everything is perfect again. So what I did was I ran string lines going around the whole perimeter, and then I ran them going parallel with each other, made sure those were straight, level, and in line with all the sonotubes, which they were. Now that that's finished, we measured for how long the posts have to be. So I drew out a little diagram, put like each post and labeled it street side, wood side, so we knew where we were, and then did our measurements in inches up from the bottom of the post bracket to where the string line is going to be. I wrote the exact measurement, but I'm going to give myself like an inch or two on each one, just in case I need to fluctuate. And you always want to cut a little bit more than too little. Yeah. Once the 6x6 beams are all cut and placed in order, we're going to run another string line just to make sure all the sister beams, like the main actual beams that the home will be sitting on, are all straight, leveled, and in line with each other. Today, I am actually very excited. I'm excited every day about this, but I'm finally starting to do woodworking. The whole step and stages before this was doing like augering all the holes, doing cement work, placing the 6x6 post brackets into the cement. That whole process was an absolute nightmare. It didn't rain for almost a month being here, right? It rained in the very beginning, but before I started the concrete, it was not raining. Local farmers were getting worried that their crops were going to dry out, hay wouldn't grow, and then the cows wouldn't have anything to eat. Around here we have a lot of beef cattle, and you know, they need sufficient hay. And this is the growing season right now. Hold on. Constantly throwing the ball for Abby. I go to do the cement posts and it starts raining immediately when I set up about 8 of them. It took me all day to do 8. I was hand mixing them. Now, as I'm on the 8th one, starts downpouring, and I'm shuffling to, you know, like scurrying around to get something to cover all the cement so it doesn't get ruined. And lo and behold, I come back the next morning and you know, it's like cloudy. It's not the greatest weather, but I come back, I look at it, and I've noticed my sonotubes are no longer straight. They're crooked, but they set. So they're stuck in the ground and crooked, and my other sonotubes got soaked. That's a learning curve. I didn't know. You cannot let those cardboard tubes get wet. I thought they were a little hardier than regular cardboard. I thought they would, you know, survive some rain. No, don't get them wet. Just don't do it. So it was finally nice enough the day after, and I put the sonotubes into the ground. My holes are filled with water, like literally filled. So I'm scooping it out with a dog bowl because I didn't have anything like small enough to get in there. So I took Bailey's dog bowl and I'm scooping it out, dumping the water next to it. Anyway, yesterday I cut all my posts, my 6x6 posts. I put them in line with each other. I did not screw them in. I made all of them at least a ½ inch higher than what they should be, because I don't trust the string line completely. You know, my string line, it may be straight and it's level, but it bows down a little bit. So when taking my measurements, I just added like an inch, ½ inch to each one. just to have some wiggle room. It's better to be too big than too little. I'd rather cut all of these again and have them perfect and not have to use other lumber again. Today I'm gonna screw in each one of these posts, but before I do that, I'm gonna make a couple of the beams. There, that's hard to do actually while looking at it. Those are actually gonna sit upwards. That's just resting there, otherwise it would have fell. But I'm gonna sister them. I'm gonna take 3 of those and nail them all together, turn them upright, and then measure and level and make sure my posts are good. I know I'm gonna have to trim a bunch, but that's what I anticipated for. All right, let's get to it and throw the ball a little bit for Abby more. Okay, I just finished all the cross members and everything is perfectly level, squared away, and
We're gonna
really
walk on our floor for the first time.
Yeah, it's a big moment, very exciting.
Not yet.
Oop. Go ahead. Feels good.
Feels amazing.
now that the bracing in between the joists are complete, they're going to be holding all the insulation foam board. I'm going to be cutting the insulation foam board at 14.5 inches wide, and I'm going to leave it the full 8-foot length because I have a 10-foot span. So I need to install small little blocks in between each rafter, each joist, just to hold it up alongside, like for the extra 1.5 to 2 foot in between the brace. But first I'm gonna rip a bunch of them. So you get 3 pieces out of every 1 piece. So you get 1, 2, and then 3 out of just 1 sheet of 4x8 at 14.5. And then you get 1 little strip at the end. Those can be used somehow. I'll cut them up, figure out how to use that. But for now, I'm just gonna rip a bunch, start putting them in place, and then finish up the blocking as I go and put the smaller 2-foot pieces in after. So I wanted to cut every single one of these out, but the wind feels differently, so I have to start taping the ones that I put down because they keep flying out on me. taped off. That literally took 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 and a half rolls. 10 and a half rolls of this. That's doing one on each side of every post, and then every cross beam and any splits in between. I wildly underestimated that. I thought it would be 2 rolls. 2, yeah, I said 2. But 11, 20 by 40, it'll get it done. We are on the deck, and then yesterday, last night really, we started, I don't know if you can see it in here, there's blue tape marking out where like the kitchen, the bedroom and bathroom and washer, dryer room's gonna be. Stuff like that. I'm actually gonna start framing today, and
We're picking out our windows and doors now.
yeah, we are picking out our windows and doors. That's why can't start framing until we actually like figure out real sizes. So.
Show Abby.
Miss Gales. Oh, Jesus. Hi. Careful. Just another little confirmation. This is the deck. So that's going to have an overhang. We have 10-foot ceilings, so they're going to be up above and then slant downward towards these 8-foot pillars. By the way, added the cross bracing in underneath the cabin. Nice and stiff, nothing moves. Very, very pleased.
And there you have it, the entire foundation and subfloor build in one video. Structurally and physically looking, nothing has really changed with our foundation. We are using that space right now for storage. We have our lawnmowers. Sometimes we park the quads underneath there if it's going to be really bad weather for a while. We have a couple of piles of wood from a deck that we took apart. We took apart the deck that was surrounding my mom's bus. We're going to be rebuilding it, so that's just under there for storage currently. We have a bunch of odds and ends under there, and as well as our engineer room. Going forward, the only thing that we have plans as of right now for that section is to make it a more equipped, more organized storage area. So we want like to put actual shelving up, to have hooks to hold certain like our rakes and different things like that. And then we want a whole canning area, drying herbs and canning other fruits and vegetables, especially once we get our greenhouse up and running, which we've been saying this each year, but hopefully this coming spring, it will be here. So we are very excited for all the potential down there, but overall, that is basically what it is in our future homes. We would like to have poured a foundation. We would like to get our hands into that, have an actual full-on basement below us. It would just lead to so much more storage, so many more rooms. Down where we do store all of our stuff, it is just like dirt. It's just dirt floor, obviously. It's just the open ground. So that comes with its whole bag of challenges itself. So it'd be nice to not have to deal with that with our future builds. But we are extremely appreciative of all the learning curves that we went through, the challenges, the things that we did really well on. We're just so excited to get our hands into the ground, set our foundation, and then start the build of our home. And that is it for this episode of Home Tours, Building Our Dream, starting with the foundation. Tune into next week to see what part of our home that we are going to give you a tour on, to show you behind the scenes, the build, where it currently stands, and what our future plans hold for that section. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, live simple.